Okay, hi everyone. Thank you for tuning in. We're starting our first session for this week. As you know, Sunday it's a work day in Israel, so I hope to, keep doing these sessions as much as I can. But I just assume that very soon I'll have to modify that. It will be a little less than 5 times a week, and we'll see how it goes. Yeah, I'm very grateful that you're with me, and I'll try to do it as much as I can. Let's start with this presentation. There's a picture I took in Rehavia. Rehavia is the neighborhood in Jerusalem where the Prime Minister lives, and we're there around there for some errands, and we saw a lot of reservists pretty much everywhere. So that's how it looks like, really, like many people with their guns coming back for 12 hours, 24 hours for the weekend, and then go back to their military bases, or in some cases the front lines, really. So as you know, the ground attack already started. We don't know much of what's going on. There's very few things that are being reported. That's the nature of things in war. So I don't have much to tell you about it. I did start following the Palestinian Telegram. So every now and then I'll give you updates from the Palestinian Telegram. I must say that I'll talk about it later, but it's a really propaganda machine. So I'll talk about it a little later. Okay, so this is something that I can see every night in the last week or so. This is from where I live, and what you see here is this light going up from the basketball arena area. It's actually 230 lights that creates this one big ray of light for the hostages. So 230 hostages, and we have this light going for about a week. So I want to share this with you. I'll make a short video about it, and I'll also send it to you. So in Jerusalem, we light a candle, like this big candle, I would say, for the hostages in Gaza every night. Earlier today, I volunteered to give a class for kibbutz members, the teenagers of a kibbutz near Gaza. It's called Kibbutz Doot. That's the name of it. It's not too far from Gaza, really. They were not impacted directly from the attack, but because the way the school system work in these areas, it's basically every, I don't know, a cluster, I would say, of villages and kibbutzes are basically going to the same regional school. Many of their friends and the parents of their friends and some of their teachers were harmed by the attack. Some were killed, some were kidnapped. It's really horrible, horrible. So you can see that the children are completely confused and traumatized. We were talking about, I was invited by this organization called PICO, basically to give a class on social media for them. How can you create all kinds of impact videos to share your feelings, your experience? So this is the kind of thing that we talked about and exercise, I would say, or like they were about to do that. And it was very difficult. I mean, just to see these beautiful kids that, I mean, their friends were, harmed. They were very fortunate, and they were not, but it could equally go harm them if the attack would not stop in the right time. And also, I mean, it's just terrible. And now they are basically refugees in Jerusalem for the last 3 weeks or so, 2.5 weeks, I guess. So this is, again, these beautiful kids that I met earlier today. Back to the little tour that I had, not tour, but a little walk that I had in the Rehavia neighborhood, where I saw the reservists in the first picture. The main street in Rehavia is called Gaza Street. And it's the historical road. I mentioned it before. There was this historical road between Jerusalem and Gaza. It really go through here and then further southwest to the coast. So people had these stickers on it. It's no longer Gaza Street, but Nahal Oz Street. Nahal Oz is one of the kibbutzes that were brutally attacked on October 7th. Before we say the prayer again, I want you to just know the amount of people that were harmed is just unbelievable. I mean, 1,400 people were killed. About almost 400 of them were security forces, soldiers and policemen, and about 1,000 civilians. And 230 were kidnapped. I don't know the identity of all of them. I'm like processing it as I go. I understood that there's like maybe 50 of those who are kidnapped are not even Israelis. I think they're from Thailand, meaning they're people that were working there. I think about 10 or 20. Again, I'm not accurate with the numbers, but 10 or 20 are Bedouins, Arab Muslims, citizens of Israel that were working in this area, and they were kidnapped too. In the last probably 10 years or so, we have two people that are in Gaza, prisoners of Hamas in Gaza. One is an Ethiopian Jewish person called Avram Mengistu, and the other one is, Avera Mengistu, and the other one is Hisham Said. Hisham is a Muslim. He's a Muslim Israeli. So it's not new that we have Arab Israelis prisoners by Hamas. Okay, so I'm just letting you know that that's the identity of some of those who are kidnapped. Again, I don't know all the names, but this beautiful young girl was kidnapped. Famously, this video was circulating from pretty much day one, her being kidnapped and taken in the streets of Gaza. Just horrific. Such a beautiful and sweet girl, and you can read a little bit about her on the right side. Just heartbreaking. We had demonstrations and to bring the hostages back home. So this is, I think, in New York City. So you can see the people here walking with strollers with the names of those who were kidnapped. About 30 minors, basically, from 9 months old to 16, I think, or 17. Sorry, this is in Melbourne, Australia. My mistake. So it's in Australia. Okay, so these are the faces of these children that were kidnapped. Simply unreal. I mentioned her before, Avigail Idan, the girl here. She's 3 or 4 years old. Her parents were murdered. One of them is a photographer he's a photographer, he's a known photographer, and her parents were killed. 2 other siblings of her, older than her, were hiding in a closet, and she was kidnapped all alone in Gaza. It's just heartbreaking again. Some of the faces of those who were killed, Nitzan and Lidor. So this young couple, Nitzan and Lidor, they were in the party, in the music festival, and Nitzan, the woman, was 4 months pregnant, and they were all killed during this attack. So just again, so we'll know who we're praying to. This lady is called Isabella, and also she was in the music festival. And Nadav, her future husband, again, the wedding was supposed to take place in the 26th, meaning last week, was in the attack. He somehow survived, but Isabella, after a while, after a few days, they realized that she's dead. They identified the body, so they were about to get married. This is a little different. So this girl is Tamar Topiashvili. She's 9 years old from Ashdod. And Ashdod is in the southern part of Israel, not too far from Gaza, one of the areas that are constantly being bombarded and rockets are being launched. And she had, I'm not sure, it's not called heart attack. It's like her heart stopped working after one of these sirens. And after a while in the hospital, about a week in the hospital, she died. Again, just from the stress and panic and everything that is going around. So really, although Iron Dome does its work, and it's very, very stressful. So you have to understand the situation Israelis are in, and we lost this beautiful girl, Tamar. As I mentioned, there are a little over 300 soldiers that were killed, and again, I'm not accurate about the number, and about 50 plus policemen that were identified and were announced as casualties of this war. And one of them is Shoham, the gentleman that you see over here, that was fighting in Kerem Shalom. Kerem Shalom it's a kibbutz, if I remember correctly, it's a kibbutz, but it's also in the southern part of Gaza. That's the main part. There's like big terminal over there for goods, for trucks that basically, I don't know, like 800 or 900 in normal times, of course, 800 or 900 trucks of goods are going through this area to Gaza. So Kerem Shalom, that's the name. Shalom means peace. Kerem is the garden or vineyard, basically. So from this place called the Garden of Peace, it turned into really a battlefield. And from testimonies that I hear, as much as I expose myself, again, I'm not around it 24/7. The heroism of some of these soldiers will be known throughout the world. I'm talking about soldiers that were fighting till the last bullet against tens, if not hundreds of terrorists. And some of them are well trained, some of them are not well trained, and yet they were fighting like lions. So every now and then I'll bring these stories. So this is just one example. I think this is the first time I cried and sobbed in the last 3 weeks when I heard about this one. I heard the clip. What you see here is an Israeli soldier that in the kibbutz of Be'eri, you can see the window is broken over here. There's a lot of dust on the piano. He was playing Hatikva, the hope. So the kibbutz is just burnt and blood on the walls and bullet holes everywhere. And these soldiers took a moment to sing Hatikva. And the hope, the national anthem of Israel, is Hatikva. Just amazing. So, in every Jewish wedding, basically, we have towards the end of the chuppah, okay, at the end of the ceremony, we break a glass to commemorate the broken temple, the destroyed temple in Jerusalem. So we have in there happiest day, we have some sadness. So this is the mirror image of it. In the darkest place, I would say, we have a little bit of happiness, a little bit of light. So this was mind-boggling. So it's on the IDF TikTok, just mind-boggling just to hear them taking 2 or 3 minutes to just sing Hatikva in the honor of the victims of this terror attack. So we are praying for the hostages to be protected by the angels of God. We're praying for those who were wounded, that God will give them speedy recovery, both physically and mentally. Praying for our dead and for comfort for their families. We're praying for the survivors, just like the children, the beautiful children I met earlier today, that they will overcome this trauma and process it and grow from it. We're praying for our brave soldiers that are on the front lines right now. And we're praying for the volunteers of Zaka. I mentioned them last week, the volunteers that were basically bringing the bodies, some of them mutilated, to proper burial, to identification and proper burial. And the scenes their eyes saw, no one should see. And we just hope that they will be sane and will again manage to continue with their life. And these holy people, really, what they did for not just the people of Israel, for humanity, is deserve the recognition. Okay, so we're going to read the Psalm 17. Some of the Psalm chapters are clearly longer, so sometimes I'll just read the entire chapter, sometimes I'll just read some of them. So in this case, we're reading the entire chapter. תפילה לדוד, שמע אדוני צדק, הקשיב ארינתי, האזינה תפילתי, בלא שפתי מרמה. בלפניך משפטי יצא, עיניך תחזינה מישרים. בחנת ליבי, פקדת לילה, צרפתני בל תמצא, זמותי בל יעבור פי. לפעולות אדם בדבר שפתיך, אני שמרתי אורחות פריץ, תמוך אשורי במעגלותיך, בל נמותו פעמי, אני קראתיך כי תענני אל, הט אוזניך לי, שמע אמרתי, הפלה חסידיך מושיח עושים, אם מתקוממים בימיניך, שמרני כאישון בת עין, אצל כנפיך תסתירני, מפני רשעים זו שדוני. אויבי בנפש יקיפו עלי, הלבמו סגרו, פימו דיברו בגאות, אשורים עתה סבבונו, עיניהם ישיתו לנטות בארץ, דמיונו כאריה יכסוף לטרוף, וככפיר ישב במסתרים, קום אדוני קדמה פניו, אחריהו פלטה נפשי מרשע חרבך, ממתים ידיך אדוני, ממתים מחלת חלקם בחיים, וצפונך תמלא בטנם, ישבעו בנים והניחו יתרם לעולליהם, אני בצדק אחזה פניך, אשבעה בהקיץ תמונתך. We're praying for the soldiers of the Israeli army and that they will succeed in their fighting against our enemies. And I mentioned it before, this is not just Israel's enemies. This is pure evil that should be eradicated for the betterment of humanity. This is it's much greater than other wars that we faced so far, and we're doing it not just as a obligation to defend our people. It's a moral obligation for the world, the way I see it. And we're praying for the soldiers of the IDF. So before we start the updates, if there are any questions regarding what's happening, I mean, it was not an easy weekend, I assume. Some of you maybe follow, some of you follow less. In your opinion, do you believe that Hamas actually knows the location and condition of every hostage? Yes. It is. Is it possible that some have died and their bodies are just abandoned along the way in Gaza? Yes. So there were a few raids that the Israeli army did, and we know that there were a few other bodies that were traced. So we don't know exactly what's happening, but Hamas is very much in control. It has the underground city of Gaza. We call it, in the Israeli slang, we call it the metro of Gaza. So this metro is not like in Paris, I guess, that where travelers go often, and in use, of course, by the French people in Paris. It's a deadly metro. It's a metro of death, and they are there, and they have their own communication over there. It's like another world, and the suffering of the Gazans on the surface is none of their concern. They just simply couldn't care less. They have their underground city, and they have their supplies and fuel, and they can just fight like that for a while, until the IDF will get them. So as far as I understand, and they are in full control of what's happening. Okay, if there are any other questions, if you want to express anything at all, feel absolutely free. Open the microphone, you can write on the chat, whatever is best for you. I guess you need fuel for launching rockets and the rockets itself. Yes, but I assume this was already prepared before that. I mean, I just assume. I don't know their operation exactly. Do you think that there will be an exchange hostage for prisoners? Hard to say, but I mentioned it somewhere last week, but I'll just express the thoughts around it. Some are saying we fail to protect our civilians. We need to pay whatever the cost is in order to save these civilians, that we have moral duty to save them. These are not soldiers, like in the case of, for example, Gilad Shalit, famously. This is not the case, and we just have to pay whatever the price is, and we'll figure out what to do with Gaza later. This is one approach. Another approach is, and you know, when you really scrutinize these approaches, you'll see that they're not necessarily very different. But let me just lay it out. So one approach, again, we just have to pay whatever and get the hostages back. That's option one. Option two, or opinion two, is to say we are going in, we're starting the ground attack, we gather intelligence, and we find ways to get the hostages as we go. We'll do it, but the main mission of the IDF is to disable completely Hamas capabilities to attack us any longer, meaning to, in a way, to forcefully demilitarize the Gaza Strip, okay, by any means. And this approach basically says, if we get the hostages as we go forward, fine. If not, I mean, it's tragic, but this is our main objective. Another approach is to basically use the ground attack as if to pressure Hamas to the point that they are agreeing to a deal. So these are the three approaches. The way I see it, it's the way I understand it, they're not that different from each other, because in all of the cases, the threat that Hamas imposes on Israel is unacceptable. So there is no Israeli, from the hostages family to the more militant side, there's no Israeli that will say, yes, we'll just let Hamas stay there. None of them. So it's just a matter of, you know, I'm not sitting in the cabinet, okay, but I'm just saying it's just a matter of, okay, so what are, on the tactical level, what do we know? What do we know? What are the messages we're getting, and what are the best chances for us to break a deal for the hostages, and then we'll take care of them later? Or did we find them? I mean, it's just, again, it sounds like it's different approaches, but at the end of the day, these objectives are there, and they're there to stay. Getting the hostages and eradicating Hamas, doesn't matter the order, both of these things should happen. As far as the Israel is concerned, there will be no compromise about it. What exactly is going to happen, what America will ask Israel to do, or what are the circumstances exactly, or whether Lebanon is joining, and then, okay, it changes a little bit the priorities. This is all, you know, things that is not in our control exactly right now. But I would just say that none of the Israelis that I heard or, you know, read their opinions from left to the right, there's a consensus that these kind of threats, that basically proxies of Iran are on our borders imposing such a threat, is just none of these threats will stay. We'll have to remove it, we'll have to uproot it, no matter what the cost is, because this is existential threat. So, or even if it's not existential threat, it's a threat grave enough that we cannot allow it to stay. Okay, so this is the type of these are the approaches, I guess. Any other questions? Or again, if you want to just say anything, express whatever your thoughts are, just feel free. Okay. So what is that? Let me see. Lots of rhetoric from neighbors about escalation. Other countries joining, Turkey, other neighbors, how likely is this? Turkey is not joining. It's the axis of Iran. So basically, we'll see what's going on with Lebanon and Hezbollah, and we'll probably get a trickle. That's again from what I know. Again, I'm not in the cabinet, but a trickle of attacks from Syria and from Yemen. We are. I talked about it last week more extensively about the fronts of Israel. It's not just okay. We have Gaza and we have Lebanon. It doesn't work like that. The whole idea is that Iran basically wants to incite the West Bank and the Arab Israelis and Muslim communities abroad to harass and attack Jews abroad. This is basically their mindset. The mindset is like a total war of the Islamic world against the Jews and to incite the Muslims around the world and their supporters against Jews wherever they are. So this is the fronts. If I have to count them, I would say Gaza, Lebanon, Syria, Yemen, missiles from Iraq, missiles from Iran, West Bank, Arab Israelis, Jews in the diaspora. So like 9 fronts. Okay. If I have to, again, just explain the strategic aspect of it. But Turkey is not joining. This might be a sidetrack, but how is Gilad Shalit doing after his long time being a hostage? He got married, I think like 2 years ago, but I didn't follow. That's what I remember. Okay. Okay, good. So again, we'll have another round of Q&A. This is from the Telegram of the Gazans, basically. I think it's called Gaza Live or something of that sort. The bombardment in Gaza area. That's a photo from just a few days ago. So the ground attack basically started, or a ground attack started. I don't know how long it's going to be or how it's going to look like, but I'm just letting you know our soldiers are actually in Gaza Strip. What you see here is I'm starting the updates, and I want to just show you what's going on in Israel. So what you see here is a photo from the lobby of a place not too far from Netanya, where some of the survivors of the music festival are basically staying, and the sign is saying, "What do you need today?" And on the right side it says, "I just need to be, I need some therapy, I need to meet other people, I need to talk." Okay, these are the options over here. And there's another sign that says, "Think about what you need today, and we'll just take care of you." There are many volunteers around them to support them. So there's a lot of efforts of not just volunteers, also professionals, to help the survivors process what happened, and even if they were not harmed physically, just the trauma of just being so close to death is shaking them to the core. So that's what you see not just there, in many other hotels and other places in the country where the survivors are, or those who were evacuated are. This is from, I think it was somewhere Friday afternoon or something like that. So it's a picture from Tel Aviv. So during the sirens, people were just stepping out of the car, and doing the best they can in case there is some interception, or God forbid a rocket hits. That's what you're basically supposed to do. If you're on the road, you just stop your car, step out. This is a highway, so that's the best they could do. But you're supposed to stop the car, step out, and if you can find the safest place you can be, don't be in the car, don't be near the car or in the car. That's the instructions basically. Shoshke Engelmeyer is a very famous, let's call it artist in Israel, and he created a map of Israel and different geographical regions. I mean, this is all imaginary, okay, but he gave new names to different regions of Israel. So the Valley of Fear, the Bay of Weeping, the Oivei Spring. Oivei is like to sob, or etc. The hills of Tzivalax, okay, the Pil, the Valley of Agony, the Road of Suffering, etc. So that's basically, it goes on and on. But again, all of Israel is in a way touched by this event, whether directly or indirectly, in a second circle or a third circle. Everyone knows someone that something bad happened to him or was near harm, because the amount of casualties, and I mean the total 14 people were killed, 1,400 people were killed, and 230 were kidnapped. So we're talking about massive cycles, and it's really touching every family in Israel almost. I showed you last week notes, sorry, a box of notes from Israeli children that is sent to the soldiers. So that's what you see here. It's a photo of the children writing these notes. It says, "We love you, IDF," and over there were soldiers that were opening it and reading it, and they were very excited about it. So it really shows you the connection between the civilians and the army. It's not a professional army, it's the army of the people. Okay, so everyone, like massive amount of people are serving in the army, about 2/3 plus are serving in the army. So when we talk about soldiers, it's not like some professional soldier somewhere. No, these are people we know. They served with my cousin, he was serving with my uncle, my aunt was his commander, etc. That it's very much one big family. Soldiers and reservists are basically being prepared for battle by their commanders. So there was a video of this commander of this battalion speaking to his soldiers, explaining them that they're basically doing something historical, but he did it in a very moving way. So these are the type of videos that are being released from the front lines. I mentioned the mustache trend several times. So reservists are like, shaving their beard and just leaving their mustache. So now reserve girl soldiers or women soldiers are painting a mustache. So this is something funny that came from, again, in the last maybe couple of days. A new trend by the women of the IDF. So this is unboxing of a meal ready to eat of the Americans that was left behind there. I don't know, like with all the American army that is now in the area. So they gave some of these ready-made, meal ready to eat kits for these soldiers. So they did a funny video about the unboxing of it, the famous trend of unboxing all kinds of stuff. So they just show what the Americans are eating, and were complaining about the Israeli one. It was very funny. Another, again, I'm giving you some humorous moment and funny moments in this war. There was a guy that did the statistics. What time should you take a shower between the moments that Hamas launches its rockets? So I'm in Jerusalem, thank God. There are not too many sirens here. I hope it will stay this way. So far, again, we're doing much better than other parts of the country. But in Tel Aviv area, Ashdod, Ashkelon, etc., they did the statistics of when exactly they launched the rockets. So it says when you should not take a shower. So every 1 hour, don't take a shower between, for example, 7 p.m. and 7:03, or at 7:30 to 7:31, or at 7:59. Okay? In between, take a quick shower. So that was again another funny statistics that they came up. On a more serious note, we have the Minister of National Security, a very controversial figure. I assume some of you heard of him, Itamar Ben-Gvir, for the far right. Okay, so he's basically calling for people to apply or submit a request to get a gun, and the article basically talks about women actually that actually submitted this application too. So it's not just men, but also women and mothers from different places are also submitting that in order to protect their families in case, I don't know, for example, their husband in reserve or around, like not in the area. So that's another thing that is going on. People are feeling the need to arm themselves, which is it's not like in America. It's not like you're just getting a weapon in a grocery store or anything like that. In Israel, it's very serious. It's an actual process. They reduced some of the criteria, but it's not like everyone can just get a gun whenever they please. Over here, this is in Tel Aviv. The bus company in Tel Aviv is called Dan, and you know how they have a sign of what is the destination or the number of the bus. Over here it actually says together we will win or we will prevail. So that's a nice gesture of this bus company. About things that are happening in the West, this is in Amsterdam, a pro-Palestinian rally or demonstration in Amsterdam, and all of a sudden a few airplanes with these signs showed up, and it says, "Love hummus, not Hamas. Make falafel, not war. Shalom, salam." Okay, so that's what you see over here on the left picture. All kinds of memes came up, like "Wake up before it's too late." There is a famous hashtag, the West is next. I probably mentioned it a couple of weeks ago. So again, Israel as the front line in this clash of civilizations, in this clash with radical Islam and the jihadist organizations, an actual democratic country facing this kind of threat, the military aspect of it in full scale. So this is from the Mona Lisa in Paris, okay? But on the right side, this is from Poland. It's in Warsaw. So take a look at the pro-Palestinian rally over here, and keep the world clean. Okay, throw the Jews to the trash. That's in Warsaw. So this is very mind-boggling, I must say, considering the history of Warsaw in the Second World War. One of the coaches of Liverpool, Mohamed Salah, I think, he's from Egypt, a famous football player. He donated 10 million shekel, $10 million, I think, for Gaza. I'm not sure exactly which organization, but to support Gaza, $10 million. And Liverpool fans in Israel just, okay, this is too much. And this fan actually just kind of throw all his scarves and hats of Liverpool to the trash. So it says in 40 years of love to Liverpool basically ended in 1 minute. You can change the team, but you cannot change your country. Okay, that's what it says here. Another meme that showed up is Palestine is the only country in the world that never existed before its occupation. So I also made a short video about it, about how in Palestinian propaganda sometimes they show coins and passports that says Palestine, but it's actually British Mandatory Palestine, and Jews also had these passports and used these coins. Also in the Hebrew, and it's really all the documents, all the passports, all the coins. In the Hebrew name of this of the British mandate, it says Palestina, and there are two letters that is an acronym for the land of Israel. It's really everywhere. It's like just famous, but it's not expressed in the English and the Arabic. So when you just read the Hebrew, you say, oh, of course, it's Palestine, Eretz Israel. So this is the British mandate. Everyone knows that. So that's another thing that came up. The ultra-Orthodox are volunteering to the Israeli army. This is the main base of joining the army is not too far from Tel Aviv, maybe like 20 minutes from Tel Aviv. And these kind of pictures are circulating for the last 3 weeks, something like maybe 2 weeks. So you can see the different spirit, the change of spirit of the ultra-Orthodox. I will mention that in the context of it is that in this session of the parliament, like if there was no war, they were actually supposed to pass a law that exempt the ultra-Orthodox from serving in the army. Something that is unprecedented. Like it was always vague. There was always some like gray area, and one of the reasons that the judicial reform came about is to weaken the Supreme Court so that such a discriminatory law of people are obligated to serve in the army and another group of people is not obligated to serve in the army. So they were about to pass this law in this session, right? Like this October, and the exact opposite happened. Of course, the circumstances are horrific, but you can see that it's a complete shift, basically. So it's the ultra-Orthodox feel committed to what we call Klal Israel, the nation of Israel, the gathering of Israel, and even if they have their disputes about the secular country or the secular Zionist movement and all that, they have their reservation about it. Still, when it comes to harming Jews in such a way, they feel obligated to step forward and help the society. So that's again a very interesting shift in the ultra-Orthodox community society. I would say about 1 million people in Israel. What is going on here? This is what you see here are signs on the left side. It's actual signs in the West Bank. This particular sign on the left, I took this photo. It's maybe like 10 minutes from where I live. And since the second Intifada, basically there is a edict of the general that runs the West Bank that don't allow Israelis to go into a area, meaning areas under the Palestinian Authority, because it's dangerous for their lives. Okay, so it's not the Palestinians that prevents Israelis from going into these territories. Let's say, for example, Bethlehem, Jericho, Ramallah, other Palestinian cities. It's the Israeli army that prevents Israelis from doing that. Okay. Just specific example, I'm a tour guide. Okay, so as a tour guide, I can actually apply to go into Bethlehem and Jericho for touristic reasons. So with my tourists, I can theoretically do that. But there are all kinds of other limitations like insurance and this and that. So I myself, I don't go to Bethlehem, although it's really very close to where I live. And this is the reason why, this edict that basically prevents Israelis from going there. So there was a meme on the right side, okay, that is now circulating that basically says, look, it's not, I'm not translating, I'm trying to give you the context. So what they're saying is that the same terrorists that did the horrific act in Gaza, they exist in the West Bank. It's not, the level of incitement and the actual terror attacks that happened in the West Bank were the same. It's just smaller scale. So whole families that were butchered, including babies, it happened already. It's like just read about Fogel family, for example. Okay, these are things that happened in the West Bank as well, but not in the same scale. So what it says here is warning. Here lives Nazi murderers that we don't feel like taking care of them because they didn't kill 1,400 people in one day, but only one family here and one family there, one settler here, one settler there for the last 20 years. So basically, until they won't take over, so basically until they, if they don't butcher hundreds of children of settlers, it's fine for now. So just go around or something. So again, it shows that, we're dealing with the same people, and the same threat exists in the West Bank, and they're trying to raise awareness for the level of threat that is coming from the West Bank as well. Okay, again, not easy stuff, but I'm trying to be loyal to what is happening and the feeling and the emotions and the sentiments that I see from the public on social media. Okay, so here on the left, again, if you donate to Gaza, it basically all goes for the pockets of Hamas leaders and for terror operations. It doesn't go really to the actual miserable people over there. And over here on the right, it's a criticism against pro-Palestinians in the West, killing kids for dignity, burn babies, stabbing parents in front of their children is legal, etc., etc. So proud of our rapist martyrs, etc. So this is again criticism for people that are on the left, and for some reason, one of the reasons is what is called the intersectionalism ideology, that basically says we have a coalition of the oppressed. So women, LGBT, Black people, and pro-Palestinian and Palestinians. This is all going for some reason in the same coalition, although it doesn't have much sense in it. So that's what you see here on the right. Last night, Netanyahu had another tweet that he basically blames the intelligence and the Secret Service for not telling him that there is this kind of threat, and for not and for basically Netanyahu is throwing the responsibility to the disaster and this catastrophe that happened on October 7th on the military and on the intelligence. It raised a massive wave today against Netanyahu that says, many people said, this man is not qualified for office anymore for that. So this is just from the last 24 hours. What you see here on the top right, it says, I take responsibility, but the way they spell it, the aleph in red, is actually saying, I don't take responsibility. So as if Netanyahu is speaking from both sides of his mouth. I take responsibility, but actually I don't take responsibility. Another meme that was circulating today is the cabinet has a meeting, and Netanyahu is saying, our most important thing is to explain how the Supreme Court is blamed for everything that happened. Okay, something of that sort. Okay. So he's asking for ideas. How can we blame the Supreme Court for the disaster that happened? And on the left side, this is a more radical one. So it was not circulating a lot, but it just shows you what is going to happen at the end of this war. It shows you the sentiment, the more radical sentiment, but it really shows you the currents, okay? That basically blame this government to have blood on their hands. The blood of the victims is on their hands because of their negligence of every aspect of life in Israel, beside of whatever was important for them at the time. So this is again a little more extreme. You don't see it a lot, but I thought I should share it with you. Arabs in Israel. This is something interesting that happened shortly after the war, actually. This gentleman over here, Nasser Yassin, is from the Galilee. I can't remember, maybe from Nazareth, but maybe somewhere near Nazareth. He has a very, very famous social media outlet called Nas Daily. millions of followers. I mean, probably tens of millions of followers. And he's an Arab. I'm pretty sure he's a Muslim. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. So about 2 years ago, he had videos explaining the conflict and explaining how you should resolve it. And he said at the end of the video that he identifies as both Israeli and Palestinian. People were constantly asking him, "What's your stance on the situation?" and all that. He said, "I'm for both countries. I think the two-state solution, that's the solution." But shortly after the atrocities happened, he changed his view, and he said this. But it's okay. So he said, "So from today forward, I view myself as an Israeli Palestinian. Israeli first, Palestinian second. My home is basically in Israel." So such a massive influencer like this gentleman, Nas Daily, he just goes to show you this where the Arabs in Israel are. Okay, because I don't think he would do that unless he felt, yes, I'll be safe and secure if I do that and say that, because I'm expressing the opinions of many people around me. This is at least my understanding of it. But such a move from his side is very, very impressive, I must say. In Rahat, which is a Bedouin town in the Negev desert, we had they have this warehouse where they pack food for the security forces. And Rahat it's a Bedouin town, and Arab Muslims. So again, you see that many of them want to participate in the effort. So maybe 2 weeks ago, I was explaining that the Bedouins, some of them identify as Palestinians, but many of them have this tribal identity of, where there are Bedouin tribes. So they don't necessarily view themselves as Palestinians, but simply as Arabs in Israel, Muslims in Israel, and they have their own agenda, not necessarily connected to the Palestinian identity. So that was a very interesting thing to see earlier today. On a different note, we had these incidents. One lady over here on the right that supported Hamas and got arrested, and here on the left, it's a grocery store that it's a famous chain here, Shufelsal. Basically, the people here ordered some food, like from this grocery store, and they found the swastika and kind of F Israel on the tape or on the paper that was on the box. So again, I assume that these are the Arabs that work for this. I mean, this is what they think. The Arabs that work for this chain that kind of wanted to give the middle finger to Israelis during this war. Continuing like what I was talking about last week, I was trying to show you that it's not just like the terror organization of Hamas is like detached from the society. It's not like that. And this video just came out in 27th of October in Ramallah, meaning in the West Bank. And I heard it in Arabic, so this is like actually what it says. It says, "Whoever has weapon and brings it to the weddings," as maybe you know, Arabs shoot in weddings as if, I don't know, I'm not even sure why they do that, but they're shooting in weddings. So the man that has weapon and bring it only to weddings, he should shoot a Jew or give it to Hamas. Okay, and it's actually rhymes in Arabic. So this is a protest from a couple of days ago. Let's keep that. There is a lot of support to Hamas in Turkey, and on the Egyptian side, they are not interested in one single Palestinian to cross to their area, so no refugees. They don't want to allow any refugees into Egypt, so much with the Arab nation, I would say. Okay, so this is it. A slightly longer update than usual because of the weekend. Let's see. Is there any questions? Shuvato wanted to relate the incredible Achdut, unity that exists in the wake of these atrocities. Correct. There's a lot of unity now between the Israelis. As I'm listening to you, I'm simultaneously trying to order the sheep vests and helmets to my cousin's unit. I put a text out on a WhatsApp group, and within a minute I was flooded with messages from people looking to help, and even texts from people willing to take them this week to Israel. See, so the level of unity of not just Jews in Israel, but also from the diaspora and Israel is very, very strong. So Jeff, thank you very much for sharing that. Jeff lives in New York. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff, maybe somewhere in that area.
Upper West Side of Manhattan.
Upper West, thank you.
Steinfeldville.
Thank you, Jeff. So this is Jeff. Thank you very much for sharing that. So any questions here? After that, I want to talk a little bit about the timeline of the conflict a little bit. I'm trying something. I'll just try that, and I won't be very elaborate. I'll just explain the ideology behind different moments in the conflict, and then we have a short Bible study. So you're most welcome if there are any more questions, anything you want to express, then just feel absolutely free to write on the chat or open the microphone. Okay. So just before we move on, I must say the survey that I sent you is very, very helpful. I got many interesting answers, and I want to allow more people to fill it out, and I'll try to navigate my way for the best, so it will be as interesting as possible for you. So again, thank you very much for those who filled it out and those who will fill it out. Okay, so if I want to go through the timeline of the conflict, I want to start with in 1917 and explain the different phases of the conflict and the ideology in different phases. So until 1917, when the British army, basically led by General Allenby, took over the Middle East, and the Ottoman Empire basically was kicked out from this region during the First World War. Until then, there were complaints and there were petitions from Arabs in Israel and Muslims in Israel to the Central Ottoman government in Istanbul, and they asked them not to allow Jews basically to immigrate into Israel and to build their colonies. We're talking about the early moments of the Zionist movement from 1880s until the First World War. And although there were all kinds of complaints and petitions and even acts of violence here and there, this is still happening in the framework of a Muslim empire. So although it's not perfect, it's still happening under a Muslim empire. And therefore, it's not really very emphasized by the Palestinians, because as long as there is a Muslim framework, the Ottoman Empire, they can't really complain about it. Okay, because if the Sultan allowed it for whatever reasons, then okay, so the leader of the believers, okay, Amir al-Mu'minin, it's called in Arabic, the leader of the believers, if he said so, then we'll accept it. We're not happy with it, but we'll accept it, okay? So for the most part, it's this period before 1917 is not very much emphasized in the Palestinian narrative, let's call it. But once the British came, and clearly a Christian empire, and with that Balfour Declaration and the British mandate that was given to it by the League of Nations, we're starting a new phase. For them, it's an attack on the Muslim world, It's a imperialist Christian attack, another crusade almost, against the Muslim world with their Jewish allies. Okay, so one of the when one of the accusations against the Zionist movement, it's like a colonizers. You're colonizers. Okay, where is that coming from? A lot of it has to do with the imperial context in which the Zionist movement thrived during the 20s and 30s. Okay, I mean, there's a lot of nuances, but let's put it this way. Okay, I mean, there's a lot to say about the British Mandate period, but I'm just phrasing it this way for now. So as the military regime at first and later the actual government of the mandate, the British Mandate, started, there was resistance of the Arabs in Israel. They don't necessarily call themselves Palestinians yet, and it's always around religious symbols and religious slogans. So in 1920, there was a pogrom in the Galilee and in Jerusalem, and it happened somewhere, I think, around April, after a Muslim festival for the prophet Moses. So if you've been to Israel on the way from Jerusalem down to the Dead Sea, there is a Muslim tradition that Moses is buried over there between, again, Jerusalem and the Dead Sea. So there is a tomb, and there's a mosque over there, and there's a whole Muslim cemetery around it. Nabi Musa, it's called. Okay, the prophet Moses. So they don't share this idea that Moses is buried in Mount Nebo, for example. So now, after this festival was taking place, tens of thousands of Muslims are coming back to Jerusalem, and they were incited against the Jews, and there was a whole pogrom going on in Jerusalem. I can't remember the exact number of casualties. I think it was in the tens. I'm not sure if it was a lot more than 100, but something in that area. So that was just the beginning. I missed that, but in 1921 there was another pogrom in Tel Aviv, and in 1929 that was a major pogrom. The different communities, very old communities like in Tiberias, in Hebron, were attacked. The community in Hebron was pretty much perished after that, and fled to Jerusalem. So 1929 also, a lot of the incitement was on religious basis, not really slogans of Palestine and stuff like that. 1937 to 1939, although there is for example, a newspaper called Palestine, but again, that's not the motivation. A lot of the motivation is the fight against the Jews. And to this day, a lot of just even in pedestrian language, the Arabs would say, we're fighting the Jews. It's not like we're fighting the Israelis. Yes, they know that they're called Israelis, but the more common expression would be we're fighting the Jews, Yahud. Okay, so the same goes with 37 to 39. After 1948 and the independence war of Israel, which you can see that the Palestinian identity is very much forged around the trauma of the Nakba, the catastrophe that happened in 1948. And then we're starting to see the rise of the Palestinian identity, as if it's a nation that was exiled from a certain land that was called Palestine. Okay, the British Mandatory Palestine, but it has much older roots, of course. The name Palestine is much older than that, and goes back to the Philistines of the Bible. But from there onwards, we can see that there is the religious component in the conflict, but we also have the national component, okay? Because if now we have nation states since the 1940s, Syria and Iraq and Lebanon, okay, each nation state came after the Ottoman Empire. Now we see that the Palestinians are playing these nations game, okay? The framework of the Muslims historically is the empires. All of a sudden, we see that they're playing a different political game. In 1967, the Arab nationalism, that was the driving force, and from after the defeat, basically in 1967, we see more and more religious component to the Palestinian identity. The fight against Israel is more eschatological. Okay, they're here. The Jews are here so that we can kill them. It's a part of the Muslim eschatology that the immigration and the gathering of the Jews to Israel is a divine plan so that the Muslims could kill them. That it's not me. That's the Hadith. Okay, so that's I would say the timeline and the changes in the identity, I would say, of the religious component in this conflict. Hamas basically is it's a strange organization in the sense that it's a jihadist Muslim organization, but it has this local branch. It's in Palestine. So the Muslim Brotherhood basically said that until we build the caliphate one day in the future, until we restart the Muslim empire, then each branch of the Muslim Brotherhood should fight for their land. So Hamas is taking the role of protecting the Palestinians and liberating Palestine, but the ambition is to one day be a part of a caliphate, a Muslim framework, the one that they lost basically in the First World War. That's the Ottoman one. Okay, so just try to give you this timeline, and if there are any questions regarding that, you're most welcome. Okay, so the last part is I want to read to you something from the Bible. It's a very strange battle, I would say, that took place in it's mentioned in the book of Samuel, 2 Samuel chapter 23, the battle of the cistern or well of Bethlehem. So it goes like this. During harvest time, 3 of the 30 chief warriors came down to David at the cave of Adullam. At the cave of Adullam, we have an idea of where that is. It's somewhere near Bet Shemesh. Bet Shemesh is west of Jerusalem. Let's say about 45 minutes drive, depending on traffic. Could be less. While a band of Philistines was encamped in the valley of Rephaim. Okay, so they're visiting David, while the Philistines are sieging Jerusalem. Okay, so David is not in Jerusalem. Okay? He's outside, but he cannot get to his capital. At that time, David was in the stronghold, and the Philistine garrison was at Bethlehem. So we now know that there is a military base of the Philistines in Bethlehem. It's that bad. Okay, it's that bad in Judea at that moment. David longed for water and said, "Oh, that someone would get me a drink of water from the well near the gate of Bethlehem." Okay, he's older now and he's missing his hometown, Bethlehem. And it's like a nostalgic moment for David, but the warriors are taking it very seriously. So the 3 mighty warriors broke through the Philistine lines, drew water from the well near the gate of Bethlehem, and carried it back to David. So the situation is, they hear that David is nostalgic and he yearns to drink from the well of Bethlehem, his hometown basically. And they said, let's spoil our king, let's take care of him and bring him some water from Bethlehem. But he refused to drink it. Instead, he poured it out before the Lord. "Far be it from me, Lord, to do this," he said. "It is not the blood of men who went at the risk of their lives." And David would not drink it. Such were the exploits of the 3 mighty warriors. Okay? So there are 3 mighty warriors that take the initiative to bring water for their king, water from his hometown. Why exactly they did that? Okay, so they wanted to please their king, that's one thing, but maybe in a way they want to show David we're capable of doing it. Okay, so now the situation is dire, but we're capable of doing it. So if I'll go to Google Earth, I want to show you how it looks on a map. Okay, so here's Jerusalem. You see the Dead Sea over here. So Adullam is somewhere over here, approximately, south of Beth Shemesh. Here's Jerusalem. And the Philistines are located, it's maybe a different color. The Philistines are located in Bethlehem, and they're in the Valley of Rephaim. In the Valley of Rephaim, it's a little hard this way, but it's like here in this area. This is the Valley of Rephaim. In a way, they block his access to Jerusalem. Okay, David is here. How could he go to Jerusalem? And then basically his soldiers prove it. You want to drink from Bethlehem? We'll take care of that. And they want to maybe give him the morale and the confidence that he can get his kingdom back. Why David is longing so much specifically to that, to the water? Okay, why? I mean, I can assume he would miss many other things in Bethlehem, not just why just the water? Why not miss his father's house? Why not miss the bread of Bethlehem? Okay, we know that it's time of harvest also, which froze us to the story of Ruth the Moabite, his great-grandmother that came in times of distress, followed her mother-in-law Naomi in times of harvest. And again, in the Bible, it's not just random. It's supposed to throw us back to that. So if during harvest time it happened that Boaz and Ruth got married and they were the great-grandparents of David, now we see that during harvest time David misses Bethlehem. He misses the bread, he misses the water, he misses the being back in his hometown, going back to the roots. And again, the soldiers prove him that it's not just the nostalgia they want to feel to satisfy him, okay, to help him out with that. They also want to show him that they can conquer the garrison of the Philistines. But then David reacts in the following way: it's one thing that I miss my hometown, but to risk you, okay, here it says this: it is not the blood of men who went at the risk of their lives, and David would not drink it. Okay, so he has this crave for water, but once he gets this water, he doesn't want them, because he doesn't want to send his soldiers to risk their lives for his satisfaction. Okay, he has different considerations, national considerations. Such were so national considerations. So he can't risk them, but he gets the message, and ultimately, later in the book of Samuel and ultimately in the book of Kings, the kingdom will be restored, and the kings will restore in Jerusalem. Okay, so one of the messages here is that when our soldiers are in the front lines fighting not the Philistines here, but the Palestinians in Gaza, it's not just for our revenge or satisfaction or whatever. It's not the blood of men is very valuable, and we cherish everyone, and we want all of them to come back safe. But David understands that there are larger considerations, the consideration of the nation, and we hope that our leaders, our politicians, will keep that in mind, that the most important thing is not to risk our soldiers in vain, not to risk the hostages, if it's not necessary, and always see the bigger picture and make sure that the interest of the nation is on the top. Okay, so if there are any questions, any thoughts, then you're most welcome. Hey, Jonah. You're muted.
Hey, okay. Hey, Itamar, thank you so much for your time and these updates. We are praying for you and your family, your country, and really, what are some ways that we can help and from the United States? I mean, other than prayer support. I mean, do you have any? I know you've given some links to some organizations to donate.
Yeah, I must say that at the moment I'm very much considered with Jews in the diaspora, because the wave of anti-Semitism that I'm exposed to, it's not surprising, but it does look like it's going the wrong way. And I don't know how exactly we would stop it, other than, strengthening the Jewish community, reaching out to people that we can trust, reaching out to representatives. So I assume you know who to talk with in your area, and just make sure that people are not silent about it. If they see this ongoing incitements against the Jewish community, to raise their voice. I exposed to that on social media of non-Jews that basically reaching out to their Jewish neighbors and speaking for them, and people are grateful for that. And this is what I think would be the best help. Because you're Jewish, I'm just saying that this is what we should do. We should just be together for each other, and make sure our neighbors know what we feel. I mean, I think we should not be silent about it. I don't live in the diaspora. I never lived outside of Israel, but I assume that there are good relations with many communities around you, and you can ask them not to be silent. So this could be maybe the right thing. I'm very worried about it, I must say. I mean, the amount of violence, it's very toxic. That's what I see in these rallies, the pro-Palestinian rallies. It's not just the numbers; it's also the toxicity of these rallies. So at least that's my understanding from where I am in Jerusalem.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else, my friends? So thanks again. I appreciate your time. Thank you for tuning in. It's going on YouTube too, so you can always watch it or share it with others, and I appreciate your time. So if there is any other person that want to write anything or say something, you're most welcome.
Thank you very much, Itamar.
Thank you, Joyce.
Probably see you tomorrow.
I hope so. Okay, all the best, my friends. Shalom for now, and I hope to see you later this week, hopefully tomorrow. Bye for now. Bye, Mihai.